All right, welcome to Mark Bell's Power Project, everybody. Super fired up to get into some discussions today. We got kind of a couple things to talk about, but first things first. This is the first time that Andrew and I are doing this. We've had many guests on the show that have said that they're fans, but the guests that we've had on, they've all been people that we're fans of. They've all been people that we've been influenced by or heard a great story from, or maybe they're a material expert. Guys like Jesse Burdick, guys like Matt Vincent, Kelly Starrett, like all the different people we've had on over the years. It's been they have some sort of specialty going on. Brian Shaw, and they inspire thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And even Brian Shaw is like now in like the millions, right? But today we have a special guest on, and this is the first time we're doing this. We have an actual fan on. This guy's name is Frank Zebra, and I met him a long time ago at a trade show. He's been following along with a lot of the stuff that we've been doing for quite some time. I guess he'll let us know how long. But man, this guy was fat, and he's going to give us the information about like kind of where he was in his life and things like that. I don't know. I don't know the entire story, and the reason I don't know the entire story is because I wanted to uncover a lot of it right here on the show. There's something fascinating to me about people listening to the show and being excited and being inspired, and then going out and making some changes like that. That's it's hard to understand. It's hard to wrap your brain around. But that is the reason why we do this. That is what wakes me up at 4 a.m. That is what keeps me fired up. That is part of my motivation, as well as my family, and as well as making the world a better place to live. By trying to make the world a better place to live, I need more guys like Frank Zebra who are going to come through and not only be a fan of our show and a fan of Slingshot and a fan of super training, but he's completely fanatical about it, to the point where he's wearing the strong sleeves in the gym and he's telling his buddies. He's wearing the Slingshot in the gym, and he's coaching other people up, and he's not just showing them about the Slingshot, he's showing them how to lift. And when you show somebody how to lift and you start getting into diet and you start carving out all these different things that you would like someone to do or practice, what are you really doing? You're really starting to carve things out into their life. You're starting to add. You got addition going on by subtraction. Just because you showed someone how to bench and now their shoulder no longer hurts, or you showed them how to bench and they increased their bench by 15 pounds, you might have lit a spark under that person that will last for quite some time. Who knows? Maybe it lasts 3 months, maybe it lasts 3 years, or maybe it lasts the rest of their life. Or maybe, in the case of Frank, maybe it leads to them, I don't know, kind of following in your footsteps, going through powerlifting and squatting some big weights, and then moving on to bodybuilding like he's doing now. He's going to do a bodybuilding show, and I'm sure some of the message that I've shared here, he's probably like, shit, man, Mark has done a lot of powerlifting, and I've hopped in on some powerlifting, and I've done pretty well. And then Mark switched over to bodybuilding. He's like, shit, Mark was powerlifting, and I can powerlift. And now he's doing that. And I bet you if I applied myself, maybe I could do it too. Because Mark used to be 330 pounds. He used to be fat. And so, that's what fires up Andrew and I. That's part of the reason why we do this show. That's stuff that keeps us excited and fired up. Just before we call Frank, I want to share something with you guys. I got a lot of positive message. I made a post. I was about to go out to my car in the morning, and my car just looked killer. It just looked badass. So I couldn't help myself but to take a picture of it. And I was like, you know what? This is pretty slick. Like, I've had the biggest piece of shit cars that you could possibly imagine. I've had cars that the transmission would go, or they'd overheat, or I had the horn going off all the time. Like, I've shared some of those stories on here before. And, I always had these, excuses on why I couldn't get somewhere, or this or that. And I always blamed the car, but the car wasn't really the problem. The problem was me. It was like I wasn't pulling my own weight. And if I was pulling my own weight, I could have probably afforded a better car. Now, things get complicated sometimes, and sometimes the message I share gets misconstrued or misinterpreted. And I want people to always understand I'm never trying to hurt anybody. I'm never trying to pick on anybody. All I'm trying to do is share my experiences, and I'm hoping that it helps some of you. And it may or may not. And maybe some of you don't need help. I recognize that. I understand that. I understand that maybe a lot of men and women that listen to me, maybe they don't want to be like me at all. Maybe they don't want to power lift. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe they don't care to get a PR in the gym. Maybe they don't care to be thinner. Maybe maybe they just don't care. That's fine. But those are not the people that I'm trying to. Those are not the people I'm trying to speak to. I'm trying to speak to the people that were maybe in a place where I was years ago, which I wasn't in this like deep dark spot or anything like that. I've never been depressed. I've never been upset with myself. I never hated myself. I'm lucky for that. I'm very lucky for that. And the reason why I say that is there are people that are in that spot, and I don't know what that's like. So I can't relate. I can't say that I can help you out of that spot. I've never been there. But the places I have been fat and I have been broke, and those are things I have overcome. I have been placed in special classes going through school. I have not felt so great about myself. I thought I was dumb. I thought because of the way I grew up and the way that school works, I thought that I was dumb, and I therefore thought that I didn't have value in the workplace to make money. I never thought like I was worthless, that's for sure. I always thought pretty good of myself. I was always, pretty good at sports, and I always, despite what happened in school, I always thought I had at least some intelligence to be able to learn certain things, but I definitely recognized there was a hole in my game somewhere. But anyway, all I'm ever trying to do is share my experiences. And I didn't come from a poor, broke family. I didn't come from some of these things that some other people come from. But I'm just explaining where I came from and where I'm at now. And where I started might be further along than a lot of you. So some of you may have even greater battles to deal with than I have, that I have had. But a lot of times, we grew up upper middle class, and my parents started out in a trailer. They worked their way out of a trailer, and they worked their way to this big, giant, gorgeous house that had a pool in the backyard and had weights in the garage and had a basketball court out front. And all that was stripped away from us, too, because my dad lost his job from IBM, and we ended up back in the trailer. So I've seen a lot of ups. I've seen a lot of downs. And then I myself was struggling to keep my head above water. And my parents helped pay for stuff when they could. And I'm lucky that I met, like, a lot of fortunate things have happened to me. But I try to share all that with you guys because maybe you guys are going through a harder time, and I sympathize with that. And I can recognize that. But anyway, I'm sharing this message, and I share this message of my car and how I'm proud of it. And it's, I no longer have the piece of shit car. My van that I had, my minivan that I had when my children were really young, both my kids were crying. I couldn't figure out a way to calm either one of them down, and I was super frustrated. And I punched the steering wheel of my van. And now I don't really ever react that way. That's almost like once in a lifetime type of thing. It's really rare for me to lose my cool that way. But I punched the steering wheel a couple times, and the horn like busted, and the horn was like perpetually on from that day. It would just come on randomly, and it'd come on when I'd roll through like a drive-through or something, and then I'd look behind me and pretend it was the guy behind me. I'm like, I don't know what's going on with that. And I had friends that worked at these coffee shops and stuff that I would roll through the drive-through, and they're like, dude, what's wrong with your car? I'm like, I don't know, man. The guy behind me, I think he's in a rush.
I keep cutting people off, and they keep just honking at me every time I come here.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, the guy's got a problem behind me or something. And I tried to pass it off on somebody else. But anyway, so I made this post yesterday, and I talked about, how I was able to overcome some of this stuff. And I was using it as a motivational tool. And I was saying, look, when I recognized that the problem wasn't anybody else, the problem wasn't society, the problem wasn't who the president was, the problem wasn't who the mayor was of my town, and the problem wasn't political, or it wasn't religious, or it wasn't because someone's out to get me. It wasn't anything. The problem was me. I was not efficient. I was not using my time wisely. I didn't have enough. Like self-motivation to get going in the right direction. And one day I decided that's bullshit and I need to change my mind and I need to change my life. So I changed my mind. I changed my goals. I changed a lot of the stuff I did. I started to align my feelings and actions. You can control your feelings. I can talk about that as an entire podcast. But I started to really take that very seriously. I'm going to align all the things that I want to do. I'm going to align those things, uh, and I'm going to make sure that my actions and the words that are coming out of my mouth, my thoughts, I'm going to make sure all these things line up so I can get to where I want to be at some point. And in sharing that message, we got one guy who there was a couple people that were a little sour about it, but this one guy is basically saying, I'll kind of shorten it up, and I am going to respond to this guy. His name's J. Herman Armstrong, and I don't ever, when somebody comments to me, with the exception of if they made like a bad, a really horrific comment or something, I very rarely get mad, and so all I'm trying to do is find perspective from this guy's point of view. But he's basically saying he's on the hustle. He works 65 hours a week. And he can't afford stuff. And he can't just go into his boss. And he can't just say, I need to make more money. And he can't just say all these things. And one of the comments that I made in the post is I said, sometimes people will come home from work and they'll tell their spouse and they'll be like, God damn, this job is driving me crazy. I'm overworked, underappreciated, and underpaid. And then the wife might say, yeah, I can't believe that place. I can't believe that's all they pay you. But you need to kind of like rewind it a little bit for a second, and you need to try to have some perspective on some of this. First of all, your wife just said, or maybe you've said this out loud yourself, I can't believe that's all that they pay. And your wife said it's all that they pay you, right? You in giant capital letters with many exclamation points following it. That's all that they pay you. Does the company that you work for, do they pay anyone else in the company? They pay anybody else $1 more a year than you. If they do, then you are lying to yourself about that's all that they pay, because that's not true. That's all that they currently value you at. That's all that you currently provide, perhaps. And so maybe it's a fair relationship. And it's something to think about. If this guy's working 65 hours a week and he can't afford stuff, then he's going to have to figure out, how can he work on his life? How can he work on his, how can he make a paycheck? How can he make a living and also work on making a fortune? And that's what we talk about on this podcast all the time. And I apologize if this post offended this guy in any way, because that was not the intention. And I'm not devaluing hard work. I'm not devaluing blue collar work. But whatever work it is that you do, if you're working really hard for it and you don't have a lot of time for other things, and you're not getting what you want out of it, and you're not finding any happiness or fulfillment out of it, then you're screwed, man. You're in a tough spot. And what do you need to do? You don't need to necessarily just start looking for another job. That's not the right answer, because the other job, it's going to have the same feelings for about 6 months, and it's going to run out, and it's going to feel like every other job you ever had. It's going to be a job, right? What you need to do is you need to work on yourself. And that's something that people need to understand, is you always need to work on yourself harder than you work on your actual job. Because when you go ahead and you work on yourself and you continue to educate yourself and you learn about yourself, about where you're strong, where you're weak, and what you can provide to other people and how you can help other people and how you can help the business that you're working for, then you're going to be able to communicate all that in an intelligent way that makes a lot of sense, and you can sit down with your employer. And you would never be able to sit down with your employer and say, I need more money. That will not work, because your employer might feel the exact opposite way that you feel. This guy, I guarantee, who works 65 hours a week, I bet that he said that before. I can't believe this is all that we pay. And what does his boss say? His boss is probably like, man, we pay that asshole way too much. And the boss has a laundry list. Go ask him, Herman. Jay Herman, go ask him. Go ask your boss. Say, hey, man, where am I weak? And he's going to pull out a rap sheet on you that's probably a mile long. It's potentially possible that you're a great employee. I don't know any of that. I'm just speculating. But again, the point is you're going to have to figure out a way to work on yourself in order to be able to provide more value. And if you feel like you're stuck in your job and you feel like you're stuck in this bubble and you can't get out of it, then you've missed some of the point that I've been trying to express here on this podcast. And I shared this message with Frank, who we're going to be calling in a second, and he had a lot to say about it too. And so we're going to get a lot of great stories from him, and we are going to. If you got some comments, Andrew, you can.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you're just talking about, about this guy feeling like he's underpaid and the company's probably thinking that he's overpaid. I'm not too far removed from the traditional workforce, the fighting against seniority, the person that takes all the days off that you want because they've been here longer. What I see or seen a lot of is the us versus them mentality. I know there's some politics, there's some favoritism involved with office stuff like that, but your employer's not actually out to get you. If you have a bad relationship with your boss, it's my boss just hates me. They never liked me. They never gave me a chance. You kind of manifested that. With maybe taking a couple of shortcuts here and there, or just whatever it is, it's something that you brought upon yourself. And I think the second you realize that, the second you kind of, you go all in. We have shirts that say we used to say it a lot more than we do now, but either you're in or you're in the way.
Right.
And that you can apply that to anywhere in life, and you can apply that to your current employer right now. If you're just kind of there collecting a paycheck, they're there just to kind of get you by. They're there to just keep you somewhat happy. If you're there to go all in, they're going to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you think that your boss doesn't like you, be so good that you're undeniably good. Be so good that the boss that hates you, make them feel like shit that they have to compliment you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have the ability to do that.
And another thing too, if you went to your employer right now and you said, "Hey man, I got to put in my 2 weeks because I feel that there's a lot more opportunity out there for me, and I want to explore what that looks like." If your boss isn't like, whoa, what are you doing, Andrew? Where are you going? No. Sit back down, dude. Put those fucking papers away. Sit down, relax, okay? If your boss isn't kind of doing that, then if your boss is like, okay, peace out, it kind of, it might tell you your spot, and with what Andrew was doing previously, where there was kind of a lot of number crunchers, it probably didn't matter that much to them on who was inputting data into the computer.
Correct.
Right?
And that was one of the biggest reasons why I had to move on was, I recognized that I'm like, hey, if I disappeared, nobody would care. Things would just keep pushing on as they are, which is just a constant circle of the exact same thing every single day.
Those jobs kind of rely on that. They're kind of like, they're like hoping, they know. They know. They're like, Andrew will be here for a year and a half, 2 years. They know when you come through the door. They kind of have the understanding almost.
Yeah. And then, on the way out, they did say hey, if it doesn't work out, you're always welcome to come back. And I'm like, I left there and I'm like, dude, I wish they didn't say that. Because then, it's kind of lingering in the back of my head. If Mark turns out to be kind of a jerk, I can always run back.
You're right.
But no, I couldn't get out of there quick enough.
Yeah, and it's important to point out again. There's a message to what we're delivering. There's lessons to be learned in what we're delivering. I sometimes feel like we're teaching a class, and I'm a little bit new to all this, and this will continue to be refined and will continue to get better. But I'm running into people on the street who are coming up to me, and it's not just, "Oh, dude, you're the sickest lifter. I'm a huge fan. Great job with that bench." People are coming up and they're saying that I changed their life. People are coming up and saying these different things that they're impacted by. Man, I listen to your show every day. Just the other day, a friend of mine, and you might have met him. He came in yesterday from Dutch Bros. He dropped off that Dutch Bros cold brew that lit our faces off. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he's got some tattoos, on his neck and his arms and stuff. But I ran into him out by Phil's Coffee in Davis. and he was flipping out. He's like, "Man, I've been following your stuff for a long time." And he and I are previously friends. He's one of my friends that he would hear the horn going off when I was rolling through the drive-through over there at Dutch Brothers in Woodland. But we've known each other for a long time. He's like, "I listen to your shit all the time." He's like, I watch every post." He's like, "I take notes on your podcast sometimes," because he said that he's in charge of 250 people.
Wow.
And he's like, "I was just watching your live feed, and that's how I found you here at Phil's." He's like, "I was just watching it, and I was down the street, and I'm like, I'm going to Phil's." He's like, "I got to talk to Mark." And I was talking about like leadership stuff. He's like, "This is great." And it's messages that he takes from our show, and it's messages he takes from the Instagram page, and he starts applying it in real life. And that's what the message has been about. That's where these lessons are learned. I'm trying to teach people the things that you're doing in the gym. Don't just meticulously do the same old thing in the gym all the time. Start to apply some of those things into your everyday life. I mean, think about some of the people that you really look up to online, and you should be cautious on who these people are. But like someone like Steph Cohen or Hayden Bowe, some of these guys and girls that are preaching, here's what we got to do in the warm up, here's what we do for the workout, and here's what we do for the cool down. Do you think those guys ever miss a warm up? Like those guys are so meticulous with that, and it's not a coinky dink. These are not lucky people. It's not a coinky dink that they're courtside at the Toronto Raptors basketball game the other night. It's because they earned it, and you're going to notice like their place will get bigger, their gym will get bigger, their cars will get better. Everything will fall in line for those two because they made a decision together, and that's really awesome when you're able to do that with somebody else, the way that Andrew's doing with his fiance, the way I've done with my wife. That's when you really end up with a real powerful commitment, and that's why a lot of times, like Andy's joined in on the carnivore diet with me. I know your fiance has done that with you many times in the past, and my sister-in-law April and her husband Bacon. His name's Andy too, so we just call him Bacon so it doesn't get confusing. But they joined in on like a keto diet as well, and it helps when you start to kind of build that community. So that's all we're ever trying to do. I'm not ever trying to say, "Hey, what you do is so dumb. I can't believe you go to work 65 hours a week." Look, man, I'm overworked and underpaid too. Might sound funny, but I work a lot. Like and I don't know how to stop myself. I never shut it off. I'm always doing probably more than I should.
Yeah. Yeah, and it spreads like wildfire, man. Because like you're saying, I'm helping Stephanie. Well, now she's helping like a whole team of people.
That's awesome.
And majority. No, I don't want to say a majority, but now a majority of it started here when we were talking on this podcast. She hears something and it's like, oh wow, that's crazy, and then she'll hear someone else's like issue and like hey, that kind of sounds like what they were talking about, but she takes the bits and pieces that she remembers and that stood out to her and that would be effective in this situation, and then it's like, dude, oh my gosh, so and so just lost 40 pounds. Like, are you kidding me?
That people don't, a lot of times, not everybody understands. Like you're coming from a different perspective,
Right?
So with your fiance, somebody else is going to say, "Oh, I probably shouldn't do that." Like I know Mark does that, but like he's a 240-pound dude. I know Andrew does that, but he's like a 180-pound guy. But like I'm a chick, I'm 140 pounds, or I'm a chick and I'm 180 or whatever the body weight is. But they're probably thinking like because they're different than us, or because maybe they are engaged in some other form of fitness than us, that they should be doing something totally different. And then Steph can say, "Hey, well, actually, not really. You should be doing, you should still be." I've heard people say that women shouldn't eat they shouldn't adhere to like a no carb diet, a super low carb diet. And it's like that. There's no basis. Maybe if you're pregnant, maybe we can start to make some. If you're pregnant, you definitely don't want to be in a caloric deficit anyway. So, but there's no information or research that suggests any such thing. It's crazy. But then a girl will hear that and they're like, "Ah, that diet's not for me. I shouldn't be doing that. It's dangerous."
Yeah.
It's just you end up with this misinformation. Anyway, let's call up Frank.
Let's do it.
Ask him how much he benches. That's all that matters, right? Yeah. How about that bench press today? That was crazy.
That was awesome today.
Did a lot of chain benches today. We used 120 pounds of chains, and we had a great workout.
Hello?
What's up, Big Frank? How much you bench?
Hey, how you doing, brother? Ballpark 385 these days.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it's hard to keep that bench strength up when you're dropping weight. So give us a little bit of give us some background on kind of how you discovered the podcast and how you kind of found out about me and stuff like that.
Sure. So basically, what happened is going back a few years, probably about 5.5 years or so ago now, I'd say, I decided that I was way too far out of whack and shape, and I needed to do something, to straighten myself out. And I started looking into going to some gyms, and this guy that I was working for at the time, he's like 6 foot tall, 220, guy benched 225 for reps, 43 reps, I think it was, combine numbers. And I said, I want to be like this guy, So I started YouTubing some videos, and I started following you then. That's when I started seeing the different, bench programs, this, that stuff. And what really got me fired up was that infinite squat, the 1080, I remember watching that, and it gave me goosebumps the first time I saw it. And I remember sitting down at my buddy's house, and I look over at him, and I say, someday I'm going to do something like that. And he said, no way in hell. and that was probably the worst thing he could have ever said. And I started going to the gym with that guy I was working for, and he was putting me through the ringer. I started training, and after a little while, our schedules didn't work out, and I was on my own. And following the programs, I started hitting it pretty hard. And I remember one day, probably like 4 months into this, and I see this guy in the corner, and he's deadlifting, and it looked like 1,000,000 pounds to me. It was like 405. And I walk up to him. It was one of my best friends from high school. I hadn't seen in a couple of years. We kind of lost touch. So we started talking. We exchanged information. Find out that he was a big fan of yours too. He followed you, and we decided to go check out a local meet. We went and checked this meet out. It was at a Holiday Inn USAPL meet. And at the time, I didn't even know the difference between gear and rubber. I started dumping 1080. I thought that was. I had no idea. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was all new to me. And so we go check out the meet and watch all these guys. And basically, we decided we wanted to do one. And I think this was probably like October at the time. And the guy said there was a meet coming up in December. So we signed up for it, and literally not having a clue what we were doing, just started doing it. Started training, following some of the training videos you guys would put out, stuff like that. And I did my first meet December. I think that was December 2015, maybe somewhere around there, I think. And I was a big fat dude, like 265, 70 pounds at the time. And I think I might have totaled just over 1,200. And I didn't want to do any cardio. I didn't want to do any of that stuff to try to get in shape. I just liked lifting heavy, and I kind of just kept doing that. I liked going to the gym, I liked doing that stuff, but I didn't want to do cardio. I wasn't pushing myself to kind of go the extra steps. And going through all this at that point when you were really big into the keto, my wife, because she also was following you, she actually started doing the keto diet.
Oh, cool.
She lost crazy. She lost crazy weight. My wife lost 120 pounds.
Holy shit.
Doing an anabolic diet. And I'm seeing her shred these pounds. I'm watching, you shred these pounds, and I'm like, fuck, man, I got to do this too, And I started disciplining myself, and I think where I really got a big impact was I was fortunate enough to go to, you remember the seminar I did in Ohio back in 2000, maybe 16, I think it was.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you were there, yeah.
Yep. And that was awesome. That was really cool, and that impacted me a lot. Some of the things you said that day, stuff like that. and meeting all those different people at the seminar, and meeting all the people at the expo, and it was really cool networking. Made a lot of connections.
Yeah,
And
I remember that seminar. That was special. That was a really cool environment at that gym, and we had a lot of great people in attendance that day, and it was really cool because like everyone just kind of circled around me, and it was just a really good. It was a really good vibe. And sometimes when the energy is good in the room, uh, sometimes I come up with better shit to say because you get a little bit more pressure on you. But I remember talking about, how like you just need that little bit of momentum. I think a lot of people are ready. A lot of people are ready for change. They may not like fully realize it. They may not know all the steps to get there, but if you can just get a little bit of momentum and get a little bit of success, once you taste a little bit of success, once you walk into the gym, you only need about 3 weeks of it or so, which sounds like kind of a lot when you haven't done 1 week of it, but get about 3 weeks strung together of some decent eating and some training. And then that's when you get, hey man, like what's going on, man? You look great. You're getting in better shape. Did you lose weight? You look awesome. Once you get that,
exactly.
then the success will build upon itself, and the success will breed success.
And that's exactly it. It snowballs. And I love that. I love that saying. I use it all the time. I use it at work all the time, stuff like that. With the guys that work for me and stuff like that. And it's true. And that's one of the best things that's happened to me is over the past 2-3 years as I've transitioned and been able to get in better shape and learn more and network and meet these people and better myself. Your confidence goes up, and once you have confidence in yourself, everyone around you has that same confidence in you. It kind of just comes right off. And I was listening to you the other day, and you said if you could just make people feel a fifth as good as you do, how much better off everyone would be. And I exactly get what you're saying. I exactly get it.
Yeah, because you know what, you're it's plain and simple. You're locked in. That's what it is. You're locked in. There's no other way to really describe it. You're locked into this whole fitness thing, and it's not. People will see you flexing your bicep, and you get a vein coming through, and like they're gonna think certain things about that. And you're not posting it because you have the best bicep in the history of the planet. You're not saying your arm is better than Arnold's, but you're proud of the work that went into it. But I also think that you have a deeper understanding, which I think is important for a lot of people. So much more can happen for you through exercise than just building up some biceps that got some veins in them.
Yep. No, exactly. And like I was talking about this with somebody at the gym the other day, and it's going to sound kind of silly, but I told them, when I decided recently to commit to doing a bodybuilding show in April, diet's always been my struggle. I love lifting weights. Lifting weights isn't a big deal. Going to the gym, I love it. I love smashing weights. Doesn't matter what it is. I like working out. Eating right, I do not like doing,
Right.
And it's kind of like scary to me, and the accountability is a big part of it for me. And I know a lot of people like to keep it a secret. They don't want to tell people that they're going to do something. They don't want to say, I'm going to do the show in case they don't succeed. That's the complete reason why I want to tell everybody I'm doing it, because I want everybody to know that I suck if I suck. And it gives me that edge that I need,
The accountability on social media, is huge. For people that are listening to this right now, they should definitely, don't talk about stuff that you're not going to do. But if you're ready, if you feel that you're ready, then start to talk about it. The main thing is just that you never give up. I'm sure when you first started dieting, how it's probably taken you almost about 2 years to get to where you are right now. And now your mind has a better understanding of what all this looks like. Now your mind totally gets you working at 100% versus you working at 60%, which is probably where you were mostly in the past, because now you're kind of kicking in overdrive. But people don't start out like that. It takes a lot of time. You eat well for a day, you cheat the next day. You eat well for a day, you cheat 2 days in a row. You eat well for a week, you cheat for a week. It's gonna be screwed up. That's just the way it happens.
Yeah. That consistency is key. Consistently being consistent, and you got to learn your body. See, the big struggle with me is, I grew up in a great house, great family, and my mom loved me so much that she kind of would let me have what I would want for the most part, you know. And I became a pretty picky eater because of it. I mean, you know, my diet before consisted of pizza, and a little bit of ice cream, and then pizza, you know. And that was the hard thing for me dieting is being open-minded to the food and, you know, dipping my toe in the water slowly, you know, trying to make better choices, you know, doing the simple stuff. There's so many simple things you can do.
Yeah.
You know, I have people ask me all the time now, you know, because they've seen what I do, and, you know, you feel bad sometimes because they want to, you know, they ask you what the secret is, looking for, like, you know, the magic pill or the drink or the workout. And it's, you know, you tell them it's just consistently eating right and exercising, you know. But they don't want to hear that part of it, you know.
Yeah, if somebody's always giving you, you know, what you want as a kid, then it's hard to learn about, like, earning stuff. Like, even if they're just giving you money, buying you presents. You know, I was fortunate enough to grow up like that as well, where it's like I kind of had everything I needed. My dad, you know, he showed us, you know, how to paint and how to, like, build shit, and, like, he showed us stuff like that. I mean, he taught us about that kind of stuff, but, like, we didn't listen because, you know, my dad was doing awesome. He's making that paper, and we were enjoying we were enjoying it. But that is a big issue. Is like, if you're allowed to have whatever you want as a kid, I think the problem is, as a child, you don't really know the harm in that, and you don't even really know what you want. I do think that most people should have the understanding, and they should be very, very, they should be very careful with this. Is like, when you give a kid what they want, you could be ultimately giving them what they don't want, and you could also be imposing some real danger on their life by allowing them to have all these snacks and all this bullshit. Like, what if your kid is 100 pounds overweight by the time they're 13, or 50 pounds overweight? Man, that is so limiting on that person. And I think, you know, from a parent
it's not
standpoint,
just physical; it's mental too. Because you know, I don't, whether people want to admit it or not, there's going to be bullying, and, you know, they're not going to get treated and looked at the same, whether people like it or not. It's the truth, you know.
Oh, it's 100%.
And I figured that out, you know, as a young kid. Like, I knew, you know, but, you know, like, you know, we were kind of talking about the other day. That's why I was the funny fat kid. That was my in, right? You needed a way for people to like you, so that's what you do, you know. But you don't realize how bad it is until you've corrected it, you know. I look at the picture of me before, I go, why didn't anybody tell me my fucking head was that big? You know, like, I didn't realize how fat I was, you know.
Hey, your head was huge.
But
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What's up, Frank? It's Andrew, by the way. Sorry for sneaking in here.
How you doing, Andrew?
I'm good, brother.
Oh, by the way, it's Fred. It's Fred, guys. It's Fred.
It's Fred.
Oh,
why am I calling you Frank?
Yeah, it's people do it all the time. No big. You call me whatever you want. It's called worse anyway.
Fucking Fred.
All right, we'll fix all of that then. But anyway, what I was going to ask you, because you were just kind of leading into it, but when you were a little fluffier, like, did you always have to put on a front, or is that just something that you kind of adapted over time when people started labeling you kind of like the funny fat guy?
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't really recall. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't just wake up that big. Kind of slowly happens, right? You just got to develop over the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I never really realized it, but, like, I knew that I didn't fit in the same way as some of the other kids growing up, stuff like that. So to get, you know, in the cool crowd, the popular crowd, I needed to do something. So it was be funny. You know, it was at my own expense, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't bother me, and I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. You know, you don't realize that's what's going on until you grow up and you get older and you look back, and then you start to see things, you know. And then even now, you know, I can see now that how people treat me differently, that I've transitioned, you know, and I'm a different person, so to speak, you know.
If you can pinpoint this down, into like one word, going from, because, like, being the bigger kid is like a thing, you know, like, your friends all go out to eat, and then, like, you scarf down the rest of their French fries, you wolf down somebody's pizza, and that's like your identity. People think it's funny. A lot of people will think it's cool. They're like, that's our boy, you know, he can freaking plow through food, and people get excited. And so what do you think, if you had to boil it down to, like, one word, what did you apply to your life that allowed you to go from that place to where you're at now?
Discipline. hands down. It's all about discipline. Everything. I've realized that everything is a choice. It's a decision that we make. And it's just having enough discipline to want to do it. I was talking to my wife before I decided to do the bodybuilding show, and I can actually tell you the night that I decided that I wanted to do it. Because I've been doing pretty good. I did a powerlifting meet back in October, and after the meet prep was over, that month after, I kind of just did me. I lived my best life, kind of went back to eating kind of sloppy or whatever. I put a few pounds back on. I bounced up from like 209 back to like 225, and then I said, I guess that tightened things up. So I tightened the diet up a little bit, and I remember coming home one night late after work. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And there was 2 candy bars on the kitchen counter.
What candy bars were they?
They were, I believe, if I recall, there were 2 Twixes.
Oh.
So 4 candy bars technically, right?
Ooh.
So
Those
I
are
come
good.
home, I see these 2 Twixes. I know I shouldn't friggin' have them, but I want it. So I pick it up, I open one up, and I sit down, and I put down the table, I turn on the TV, and I go, "What are you doing? You're not stronger than a Twix bar?" And I picked it up, I went back out, I threw it down on the counter, and I said, "I'm doing this." I said, "This is up to me." I said, "I am not weaker than a piece of candy." And then the very next day, that was it. I decided I was in, and that's everything. It's everything that's happened over the past couple of years. It's just me being more disciplined, and understanding that you have control of all these decisions. You just have to want it. And if you don't want it, you're not going to be able to get it.
Yeah, there's a saying that they basically...
Whether it's, fitness, life, your career, whatever you decide to do, you have to want it. And I don't do anything halfway. Once I decide I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. It might take me longer than others to get some of these things done, but I'll do it,
They say that you can't even see the how when your why is super strong. Like when you understand, why you want something, why you want to lean towards something. And I think, something that's going to be interesting for you will be post bodybuilding show, because that inner fat kid is still there. And so my suggestion to you would be, I would allow for, what's your body weight at right now?
I weighed in just under 203 this morning, like 202.7.
Yeah, so like whatever your stage weight is, I definitely wouldn't allow it to creep 20 pounds higher than your stage weight. Your stage weight will actually probably be a little heavier than you're thinking, because they'll recarb you up and there's a bunch of weird things that happen. But you shouldn't allow more than about 20 pounds. Could be 25 or something like that. And then 1 month out from the show, it's your job and your obligation to still be within 10 pounds of what you were on stage. You're not going to look the same. You won't be all tanned up and you won't be as tight and things like that. But you should stay within 10 pounds. And that's something that I stuck to. It wasn't always easy, and I went above 10 pounds a couple times, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to, be careful of it." So I think that would be a really good goal, and it would keep you in check, because you're going to have to really, I mean, dude, you can go right to 250 when the show's over without, in the blink of an eyelash,
Oh, and trust me, I know, and I'm good at gaining it, man. It's putting it on is not an issue. Like, if I wanted to go back up to 275, I'm confident I can do it really quickly. But that guy's never coming back. I buried him. He's done.
That's great.
If I come back to 275, it's 275, twisted steel and Texas steel.
Yeah.
There's no fat on it.
What does your family think about this? What's like mom, probably cooking you pasta when you're a kid your whole life. So, how is the family, what do they think of this?
They think it's awesome. They've always supported me in whatever I want to do. You know what I mean? And it's cool because my dad's been a big part of this the past few years. When I decided that I wanted to do something, in the gym, he took interest in it with me. It was good because my dad worked a lot when we were growing up. So, we didn't really have, we had a good relationship. We didn't hang out a lot, stuff like that. So it's kind of good. That we have this common denominator. We get to train together. I have.
You work out with your dad?
Gyms. What's that?
You work out with your dad?
I do. At least once a week. Usually a couple of.
Shit, man! I didn't know. That's awesome. I have a gym
set up in my house, and he comes down, and we hit it pretty hard.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's huge. What do you think was?
He's
you
strong
mentioned
too, man. He's
yeah.
How old's my dad, Dave? 50 what? He's 52 or 53, and He deadlifts in the low 400s. He squats right around 400. He blew out his shoulder a couple years back, so he's benching just around 200. But he's strong for a 50-something-year-old guy.
Do you think when you were heavy, there was a lot of conversation in your head every time you were about to like diet, or even when you did try to diet, like, no, man, like you're the big strong kid. Like we need to stay true to this. This is what we do. Let's not worry about, eating like a bird. We need to eat big. We need to lift big.
100%. I used to use that as an excuse all the time. That was my go-to when somebody would say like, you spend all this time in the gym. You don't want to try to like lose a little bit of weight. No, I don't want to get weaker. I don't want to get weaker. I don't want to get smaller. I want to be the big. That was kind of the way I hit it. I knew deep down inside that I could do it if I really wanted to, but I didn't want to do it. Well, at that time, I wanted to pizza more.
And it's funny. It's funny when when you say that out loud. It's like you know you're lying to yourself big time, because you know that there's plenty of men and women that are very lean, that are incredibly strong, and so you're like,
Yep.
yeah, okay, my strength will go down when I diet, when I lose some weight, but I can regain it, and I'm sure your strength now is probably not the same as when you were just throwing down hot dogs and stuff like that, but it'll come back, and as soon as you put on, a little bit of weight and you're not in a huge caloric restriction, most of your strength will come back anyway.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'll tell you what, I in 2017 when I competed in June, I was probably around like 260 at that point in time, and I totaled 1535. A year later, or a year and a half later, I should say, I weighed 209. And I totaled 1530, so 5 pounds less. So I did it over the course of almost 2 years, and I was able to actually maintain most of my strength. Now that I'm a little bit leaner, I'm definitely feeling it. But it's not as bad as people think it is. And when it's all about changing your focus. That's what I've learned is, I've been hurt a couple times. I've had different things happen. You can't focus on the I can't. Focus on the I cans. And with bodybuilding, now that I'm doing that, my goals, my objectives are a little different. So I'm not hung up on, I can bench 15, 20 pounds. It doesn't bother me. I know that when I want it, it's right back there. I can go back and get it. My focus is different right now. You just have to focus on something that you can accomplish, or that's not gonna create rats in your head.
You were mentioning this word discipline being the game changer. Now, a lot of people might look at some of the athletes and some of the people on Instagram, some of the people in fitness, and they might think to themselves, "Well, I can't ever do that." Like I don't. Look at this guy. He's got a 30-inch waist. Or look at this girl. She looks great, and she's doing these crazy CrossFit workouts and things like that. And a lot of times people think that they can't do it. What do you think was inside of you that allowed you to think that you can get it done?
It's gonna sound corny, but I've always wanted to be like the best at something, and when I started doing well in the gym, or at least as far as I was concerned, I set goals, right? And like you talked about, I set realistic goals for myself. And once I started accomplishing those, I realized that I could probably reach out a lot further than I thought. You just keep setting the bar a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher, and before you know it, you get there. I don't know that there was any one thing in particular inside of me except the desire to just fucking be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you said it though, because you basically you kind of laid down the groundwork. It sounded like, by picking off some of these goals that you had, it boosted the confidence. And I think that that's maybe a forgotten element, is that discipline can be built and willpower can be built. You can make it stronger.
Yeah.
Some of these people we look up to and admire, I mean, Arnold or The Rock or some of these guys, they didn't start out with that work ethic like that. It took a long time. It took them many, many years. And maybe maybe Arnold learned it at a really young age, because he's been on fire since he was like 16 years old, But some people learn a little faster than others. But your discipline can really, really be built.
Yeah, you can. You can absolutely try everything. And that's what's cool about the gym. And that's what I tell people all the time is training in the gym translates to training in life all around. Everything we do, if you practice it and you set goals for yourself, if you chase it, you get better. I'm in sales. That's what I do for a living. And that's sales 101. You break down an objective into small forms, so little accomplishments. You got to get to A before you get to B, before you get to C, before you get to D. And if you do that, it's not as overwhelming and it's a lot more realistic. And like you said, you build more confidence that way because now you're getting it done and it snowballs, and before you know it, you're right there at the finish line.
So now that you've slimmed down and you're just looking all ridiculously jacked, how's your confidence been?
Oh, it's honestly, it's probably too much. I'm probably a conceited asshole, but I feel great, man. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and it's helped me in everything. Like even at work and stuff like that. With what I do, I deal with a lot of customers, and I mean, like I said, it's not right, and it's not everybody, but you'll get treated differently. Unfortunately, it's the way it is, and when you're in better shape, people treat you differently. It's not, I don't think I'm not saying it's right, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Like people can't physically see that you're an asshole. They can't physically see that you're ex-religion. They can't specifically see that you're racist or you're specifically A, B, or C. They can't see that, but people can very clearly see if you're fat. As you're perpetually in this fat suit, and they're going to have a certain.
And what do you perceive fat with? Lazy, right? They probably don't do anything. It's probably just, and that could be the complete opposite. That's the perception people have.
Right.
It's, oh, this guy doesn't do nothing. He sits on the couch all day. He must be a lazy bum. Whatever it is.
Right.
That's the perception. People read books by the covers all the time.
Well, and fat and lazy, it's a really weird dynamic because people aren't trying to intentionally be lazy. What happens is, as your metabolism slows down, it's in our DNA to conserve energy. And when you become a bigger person, you just become more docile. You become more relaxed. You kind of sit down a little bit more. When you start to get uncomfortable and you're going to sweat when you go, walk from point A to point B, you're probably just not going to do it, and other people, they might think, man, it would be great if this guy would just take these steps and do this extra stuff. And it's like, well, you don't understand how comfortable that is for that person. Maybe their back hurts, their ankle hurts. And you could have a lot of people that aren't compassionate towards that. But that's kind of where that fat and lazy thing comes from. It's because, we have it in our system. It's every human being we don't want to just randomly expend a bunch of calories. And then when you're fatter and when you're not eating foods that are good for you, your discipline and your ambition can be wiped out by the shitty foods that you're eating.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is you just feel better. Like people, I never realized that I didn't feel good because I had never tried anything else, but when you eat all that processed crap and you have a processed body, you don't have the same kind of energy that you do.
How about being able to wipe your ass? You
can
can now wipe your ass for the first time.
Feel it. What's that?
I said, now you can wipe your ass, right?
I guess it's unbelievable, and I'm not winded after I do it.
Yeah, you didn't turn purple. Your hand didn't cramp up. You didn't have to stretch before you did it.
I used to get that's probably the one thing I used to get made fun of for all the time as a kid and an adult was heavy breathing. I mean, I was the wheezy kid. I'd go up a flight of stairs and And that I'm glad I don't get that anymore.
You held so much of the fat in your neck. I think that's probably why.
Yeah, man. I think that's why my head's so big in return. It was so heavy all these years. That's why I think I got these big traps. I had to hold that melon up.
What did your days used to look like versus the way that your days look now?
Versus like diet or like
just kind of like in general, like how have the priorities shifted? Like, do you wake up and do let's forget about the bodybuilding for a second because that's kind of specific and there's like cardio involved and shit like that. But like just over the last few months since you've lost some weight, like what's the do you eat breakfast or do you use intermittent fasting or like what are you doing?
Yeah, so basically what I've been doing is during the when I was prepping for the powerlifting, it was a little bit different, but for the most part, I wake up and I would fast until probably like I used to start my days, get up around 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m. and start my work day around 8:30, 9, and I usually have a meeting in the morning, and I would typically not eat anything until after my meeting. So I wasn't eating my first meal until probably like 10:30, 11 a.m. every day. So the first 4 or 5 hours of my day, I would spend fasted, and then from that point, I was eating about 5 meals a day. And I couldn't tell you what the calories were or anything like that. But what I could tell you is I would eat the same exact stuff every single day. And if I wanted to change how I looked or how I felt, I would just pull in a couple things, take out a couple things, and just like simple, basic, like the normal stuff. 8 egg whites, a few whole eggs every morning. I love bacon. I would eat stuff like that, chicken and rice, like the basic stuff. And that was it. Nothing really crazy. I was just eating cleaner foods. I wasn't drinking calories anymore. I wasn't snacking. I mean, I was eating so bad, it really wasn't that hard. I used to tell people that all the time, and I was so out of whack with what I was eating that it was very, I think it was maybe easier for me to progress than some other people, just because all I had to do was just not eat the junk, and right away I made a ton of progress. And then from that point, I said, okay, let's clean up the food that I'm eating every day. And I started doing that. And, and now I eat 6 meals a day, and I eat the same thing every single day. And it's life is almost simpler now than it was before. I don't have to think. I look at food as kind of fuel and not food. And that's it. Everything's planned out, mapped out. I have more time now to focus on other things that are more important.
How amazing is that transition of now it's not necessarily about like breakfast, it's not necessarily about like lunch, it's just about like what you're going to eat for the day, which is a totally different transition than the way that we're brought up, because in the morning you have cereal, you have pancakes,
Right.
you have French toast, like, and now like that you do like more like now that you're looking at food as fuel, you can eat an omelet at 10 o'clock at night if you wanted to. You could have steak for breakfast, or some bodybuilders, they wake up, the first thing they have is like halibut and some freaking oatmeal. It sounds insane and might sound gross to some people, but your taste buds are not different in the morning. It's your psychology that might be changed because of the way that we were brought up.
Exactly. And I think that's a big thing that people need to do too. Is there's 100 ways to skin a cat. And when somebody asks me about like how I eat and stuff like that, you just gotta try different things. Like, don't give up. That's what I like to say is just don't give up. I mean, it took me years to figure out foods that I liked because I was such a picky eater. Again, because all I ate was crap when I go whatever I wanted, pizza, whatever. When I was growing up, I got to eat what I wanted, so I wasn't open-minded. I didn't even want to try things, but you got to give it a fair shot. You got to be open-minded, and you can absolutely find something that'll work. There's enough foods out there. There's no excuse for you not to be able to find something that can work for you.
Did you
and that's what you have to do.
Were you kind of one of these gym bros that like almost maybe at some point knew too much, just enough to be dangerous kind of thing, where you'd almost talk yourself out of stuff because you knew certain things?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
I mean, I know I've done that myself. I'm guilty of that myself, where I'm like, I shouldn't do that because A, B, and C, and I'm like worried about all this other bullshit that doesn't matter. I should just go in there and work hard and not really worry about it.
Yeah, and typically, when I get in my head like that, it's just me making excuses because I don't want to do something that's hard. I want to do what's easy, and easy doesn't always mean better. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of people want to take it easy. It's just like when you're training, right? Nobody wants to, whatever the exercises that people hate doing, it's the one they need to do the most. Because it's not easy. But easy doesn't mean it's going to make you better. You have to challenge yourself. And you challenge yourself, you do it, you accomplish it, you're that much more confident. The next challenge is even easier. And it's all about the discipline. It's everything. You can relate discipline to everything.
Were you a night eater? Did you used to wake up, in the middle of the night and just crush food, or do you used to eat real late or anything like that?
Oh my God, do you have no idea? That's still my issue now, and I have to keep the house empty just to help my discipline, because I'm guilty of that. I'll wake up, to take a leak at 1 a.m. and I walk right by the bathroom, I go right to that cupboard, and I'm like, what do we got in here? Smashed down a bag of chips, hop back in bed. I mean, I was bad for that. I remember when I was big, when I was like 285. I remember like ordering pizza, falling asleep, waking up 5 hours later in the middle of the night, not even getting like up off the couch, reaching over, grabbing the pizza, eating it, eating the plate, going back to sleep. I was bad. I mean, that was a big issue for me. Whole things of Oreos and all that stuff.
I
mean,
used to do
that
I
was
used
my
to do
weak point.
similar things,
And
and
I
I
wouldn't
would,
eat
yeah,
a lot of times during the day either. That was the other thing. I don't eat once or twice during the day.
right.
So everything I was eating was just all junk at night.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of the same thing. I used to do the same thing. I'd go and just, ransack my cupboard, and I would just smash through all that food. But, something I've been trying to share with people lately is, your feelings are a big component of you having ambition, you having discipline. If you don't feel good about yourself, and you know that you're a failure in some ways, like just because you ate that at night when nobody else was around, and because maybe you even ate it in the pantry, it doesn't mean that the calories don't count. They still count, and they still hurt you, and they still hurt your
Yep.
psyche. You make up the next day, and you're not real pumped about yourself. Like if you were dieting for a few weeks and you went off the rails, you'd probably wake up and you'd probably kind of laugh, and you'd be like, okay, well, all right, I need to get my shit together. Not a big deal. But when you do it frequently, you do it several times a week, you really feel like shit about yourself. And what you said was really powerful. Is you said the house is empty. I don't have snacks because you know that those things are going to lead you down the path that you don't want to go down, and it's going to be too
It's
hard for you to
temptation.
have control, and it's going to fuck with your feelings. It's going to screw up the way that you feel about yourself ultimately.
Yep, exactly. You know what? Why make things harder for yourself? Than they have to be. If you can, it's tough. I get from people you live with other people's families, they might not be on the same type of diet, but at the end of the day, it's still your choice to do it or not do it. But, why not put yourself in the most advantageous position? If you have the ability and you're dieting, get everything out of the house.
That's exactly
That's
right, because
one-on-one.
everything's going to be hard anyway. It's the
Right.
whole process is going to be difficult. Now that you're doing bodybuilding, you're kind of learning like, holy shit, this is a real full court press that they got going on me, right? I mean, it's bodybuilding is 24/7, which I can't think of any other sport that's like that.
Yeah, a lot of respect, to the guys who've been doing this for a long time, the guys that do it at the top level, because, I knew it was going to be a challenge, but like you said, you don't realize how much of a commitment it is. I mean, there's days that I literally, I don't have enough time to sleep, 7, 8 hours, work out, for 2, 3 hours with the training and the cardio. And then I got to work, 12, 13 hour day too. There's just some days literally I have to sacrifice on some of these ends to make it work, and it sucks, but it's what they got to do.
Yeah, and it's
If you
like,
really want it,
are you gonna, it doesn't make sense to do cardio over sleeping. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense to go
Right.
do that half hour or 45 minutes of cardio in replacement of an hour and a half of sleep or something. It's just dumb. It gets to be stupid at a certain point.
Right.
So that's great that you recognize that there are certain times where you got to cut some of these things off.
Yep. And it sucks. I mean, there would be nothing more I would love to. I mean, if I could do this full time, I mean, that would be a dream. But let's be realistic. That's just not the case for most people. But I want it bad enough, and I like it too. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it, so it's easier for me. Obviously, somebody that's not into the gym, that's just trying to get in shape, it's a different story. But they're not going to make that same kind of commitment. But I enjoy it enough that I make it work, and I find it. If I didn't like it as much as I do, there's no way I could do it. I mean, I commit a lot of time to it, but it's worth it to me. I get a lot out of it. And like I said, it's not just the gym, but what I've done in the gym is translated into other things in my life. And I know it's just making me better all around. It's just giving me more opportunities,
How has this impacted your work? Have you noticed, like, you've been doing better at work over the last several months and stuff like that, or has there been a transition there?
No, I absolutely have, man. As I would say, and that was kind of the turning point. All kind of happened at the same time. As I started bettering myself, physically, I started growing mentally, and I had an opportunity to better myself in the company, and I was promoted, and all of this kind of just happened at the same time. And, so my confidence is going up there, my confidence is up in the gym, and, just everything, I've been very fortunate. I've had a very good, past few years, and everything's kind of been on the up and up. And it's because I'm taking these principles that I've learned and I'm applying them to work, and I deal, like I told you, I deal with a lot of customers, a lot of customer interaction, talking to people, stuff like that. And you feel more comfortable, talking to people. You're not self-conscious anymore.
And how much
They're
more,
staring at you.
right? How much more are you smiling now?
Exactly, a ton.
Isn't that crazy?
And that's something else that I'm working on too. I just I just ordered the thing. I'm going to fix my teeth, because it's like I fix the rest of my body. Let's get some braces. You know what I mean? So like I want to keep bettering myself overall because I feel so much better.
When
I
you
feel
smile,
so much better than I used to.
when you smile and you're fat, you're kind of like, that doesn't look so great. And so like I see a lot
No,
of the pictures you have on Instagram, you're making like kind of these funny faces and stuff, but I've seen more recently where you're actually smiling, and I know from firsthand experience the reason why.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. What's funny too though is people tell me all the time. They're like, you were funnier when you were the fat guy.
Yeah,
on Instagram.
right.
I get that like all the time. They're like, I'm like, I'm not different. I'm the same guy. I'm like, yeah, the face is just not the same. I'm like, well, my head's not as big. I said, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah, I don't look as comical. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I don't look at a big round cartoon. I don't look like Cartman anymore.
Sounds like you got kind of 3 take-home messages for somebody that's listening to this right now, and I wrote them down. And one simple thing that people can do is they don't have to necessarily use like real fasting. And in my opinion, like real fasting is like, anything over like 16 hours. I think like a 10-hour fast is just, it's not very long. However, you mentioned that you cut out a meal at one point to where you went to 5 meals. So somebody that's listening to this right now, if you're heavy and you want to try to make changes, but you're not really sure where to start, this would be a really good place to start. Just see, baby step your way into it. Just kind of like you're sharing. Just baby step your way into it and try to have your first meal at maybe 11. Have your first meal at maybe noon or maybe even 10, but just maybe make it further past where you normally would have your first meal. And if you really feel you need to make some big changes, maybe you cut out 2 meals for a little while, or maybe you cut out, not eating until 2 or something like that. But do something that's manageable for you. If you go and dive into some intermittent fasting, that's going to actually have a negative result. So do something easy first and give that a try. So try to cut out a meal. Don't drink your calories because that can be devastating. You got any sort of fruit juices, protein shakes. They kind of have their place a little bit, but I would still be cautious of those just because that can be overdone too. You can start throwing in a lot of crap into there, and a lot of them are made with like artificial sweeteners, and I think that sends the wrong message to us as well. And then night eating, and it's not the time of day that you're eating. It really doesn't have a ton to do with that, but you can't be waking up in the middle of the night and hounding, your pantry for food. You're better off, it'll go along with the fasting. And when you have the rule not to eat, that's actually a pretty simple rule. Having a lot of rules and regulations on the types of food that you eat and doing a bodybuilding style diet where you got X amount of carbs, X amount of protein, you can't eat hardly any fat. That is brutal, and most people will never be able to follow it. And that's personally why I think flexible dieting and some of this stuff, I kind of think it's too tough for most people to follow. But if you just take in some of these principles, intermittent fasting is simple. What are you doing for the day? I'm not eating. I'm not eating until 2:00. It cuts out a lot of meal prep. It saves you a lot of dough, which I know is a huge concern for a lot of people. So these are some things you might want to look into. Was there anything else that you kind of added into the mix that helped you drop some weight? Did you walk or anything like that?
I do, man. Those 10-minute walks, though, they absolutely do work. There's no doubt with that. I 2-3 times a day, every single day. Especially if I start to feel a little bit groggy. I started walking around my building outside. I go walk the lot, and I did that a ton. I also stairs. I like doing stairs. I like kind of like what do they call it? Like HIIT training,
right.
Like intense bursts. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So it's again, something that's easier for somebody. You don't have to go balls to the walls, And one thing I thought of when you were talking about the food too, try to plan your food. If you can, I plan every day the day before what I can eat. I know sometimes you're not going to be able to, but if you just wing it, you're going to set yourself up for failure. If you can kind of decide what you're going to eat ahead of time, you're a lot less likely to make mistakes.
A really huge tip too is to before you go out to eat, when you're not sure, like if you're going out to eat, like for you, if you're going out to eat with your wife, you guys get to pick the destination and so on, But if you're going out to some restaurant you've never been to, you're not really sure, you're supposed to be on your plan, you're supposed to be on your diet, then you might want to eat before you go out. And then you can still eat in front of everybody. You can still be social if you want. but then what you have doesn't matter quite as much, and you can still try to pick the best possible choice for you. You don't have to be weird and crazy picky about it. You don't have to make a big old scene about it. And then also too, you're not starving. And the second they bring out bread and like it just the other thing is too is share this stuff with people. You know, like when you like last night, my wife and I went out, and it'd be harder if we were in a bigger group, but I do this sometimes even when we're bigger groups. Right when we sat down at the table, the guy went to bring bread, and I said no bread, and so he was like okay, and I said you know what, actually for everything that we order, like we don't want any starches or breads or crackers or nothing with anything. And he was like, okay, got it. And he was super pumped. And then like he came back and he's showing us the menu and he's showing us all these different ways we can order stuff. And he was super helpful. And that most of the time that's going to happen. You know, sometimes somebody might ask, "Oh, you know, what kind of diet is this or something?" But he was all helpful. And then even when I ordered, because I kind of had a weird order, I ordered like just all meat because I'm on this carnivore thing. I got this going on, and I got 3 different kinds of meat, and they ended up taking off. Like 20% off the bill because I didn't get any of the side vegetables or any of the side other stuff that comes with it. And I'm like, damn, I got a bunch of awesome meat that's real high quality that at a high end place, and they took 20% off. My God, this is a win-win. But you want to think about when you go into those situations, you have to have a conversation with yourself. You have to give yourself a pep talk like a football coach would give a team before they go and play a playoff game. You got to be really serious about this shit, and you have to tell yourself, look, man, no one's invading on what I'm doing. I'm not going to, someone's not going to plop down a beer, and I'm not going to be like, oh, dude, I need a beer. Don't be a pussy. Like, be stronger than that. You can be stronger than that. You can build this discipline, but the discipline won't build if you keep cracking all the time. So you have to stay on the plan, and you have to force yourself here and there. That's how we get points on the scoreboard.
Yep. No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And people expect it too. When you go out to eat and stuff like that, diet. A lot of people diet. It's not out of the ordinary. People ask to have things,
true.
Substituted all the time. Like you said, make it easier for yourself. Don't have that bread come out on the plate. Don't challenge yourself. If you can make it easier, make it easier. And when you're that guy, don't be embarrassed when you're out with your friends and stuff like that. Because I tell you what, after you go out with them 2 or 3 times like that, and they realize how much discipline you have, they're going to be telling you how awesome you are for doing it, and you're going to feel that much better about it. You're going to feel that much better about it because now you're doing something that they can't, and it makes you feel
right.
good.
And also, too, a lot of these friends, like, I'm sorry to say it, but shit, man, like, when you keep making progress, like, if you keep climbing a ladder at work and you keep staying in shape like this, those same friends, a lot of them aren't going to be around. You might have a couple homies from back in the day that will always be there because they'll always just understand that you're the same dude. Your goals just keep changing. They keep getting bigger. Your dreams keep getting bigger. But like, I don't have one friend. I don't have one friend from high school. I barely have friends now. It's just like employees and family, pretty much. I've wiped everybody out. No one can stand me anymore. But these are the kind of things that are going to happen. But look, man, those are the sacrifices that might have to be made. Do you want to be like everybody else, or do you want to try to make a difference in this world? And you want to try to make a difference for yourself. You look at a lot of people, and they're just kind of doing the same old thing. They're drinking. They're in their hometown. They're just kind of sputtering. And you're like, man, like, I don't know. Some of your friends and some of these people, you care so much about them, and you know that they can execute a lot better. And you're like, man, I'd love to see them, fucking turn the corner, but they're going to have to learn it for themselves. It's got to come from within.
Yep. No, exactly. You can bring a horse to water. You can't make it drink. You ultimately have to be thirsty enough to go out there and get it.
So when is this contest, did you say?
April 27th. It's the Cutler in Boston. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's exciting for me. It's different, and it's cool because I've made a lot of, I love, networking in the gym, stuff like that with people. And now I'm getting to, meet a whole bunch of different people that, I never really had talked to before, just, bodybuilders, powerlifters, whatever. It's just different, you know what I mean? And so it's cool. I've been, training a lot differently and doing a lot of different things and trying a lot of new different things.
Is your wife pissed?
It's definitely not. What's that?
Is your wife pissed at you yet? Because like bodybuilding is like just another level of commitment. Has she gotten frustrated with you yet?
You know what? She's an angel, man. She puts up with so much crap with me, and she preps all my food for me. She does a lot. There's no way I'd be able to do it without her help. That's 100%.
Let me know how she's feeling when you're. Let me know how she's feeling when you're about a week
out. About the last 8 weeks.
Yeah. Let me know how she's feeling when you're about like a week or two out. She'll probably start being pretty mad at you. Because you won't be able to do shit.
Everybody keeps warning me.
Yeah. It gets to be tough, dude. And I'll tell you what, a couple days before the contest, this is my experience, and a few days after, you just are not yourself. So don't be scared by that. Don't worry about that. Like you will most likely not want to do anything. Like you won't. It sounds awful to say, but like you most likely won't give a fuck about anybody else but yourself for a couple days, but you'll get over it. You might even want to warn your wife, say, hey, look, I don't know what this is, but a couple guys warned me, but it's like an out of body experience. It doesn't feel good, and it gets you kind of worried. You're like, what is going on with me? I'm such a weirdo. But it'll go away. It almost feels like, in the movies, like when your body escapes from itself and you're like watching yourself. It's awkward, dude.
Yeah, that's one cool thing I'll say, that I'm enjoying about doing this. Like I love powerlifting. I'm always going to do that. That's never going to go away. But powerlifting, especially when you're a fat guy, you whatever, you pick a goal to train for a 10, 12, 60 weeks, whatever it is, you train, and you might see a little bit of progression, through strength and stuff like that. But I've never had the aesthetic changes. And now that I'm fairly lean, or at least leaner than I ever have been, I'm seeing stuff on a weekly basis change, and it's really awesome. I mean, that gets me fired up. When I wake up the next morning, I look different than I did the day before. I mean, it's crazy to me. Like I said, I've never seen it. I'm starting to have abs. I've never had abs in my life. You know what I mean? It's
weird,
crazy,
right?
And I'm still far out of shape, but compared to what I was, I'm like the Lisa.
We have a certain friend listening in. You know who he is. You cut a wrestling promo for him one time, and he's struggling. He's not quite making the turn. We're not going to mention his name. No reason to mention his name. We'll keep him anonymous. But he said he's listening, and he said he's getting pumped up and he's getting excited. And he said a lot of the things that you're saying, sound the exact reason why. He was scared. He couldn't turn the corner. He's kind of embarrassed and so on. What do you got to say? There's probably a lot of other people listening that feel the same way this guy does. What advice, man, would you give like to help these guys turn the corner and to see the light?
Well, it comes down to, I'll give you two metaphors, right? You can't hit a home run if you don't step up to the plate. And if you reach for the moon, even if you miss, you're going to get the stars. Have a long-term goal, have the short-term goals, and allow yourself to be successful, and don't be scared. You learn more from failure than you do from success. And once you figure that out, you can use that to make yourself better. Don't be scared to fall down. If you try something and it doesn't work, you're going to have a much better idea on how to make it work the next time. And just stay committed and stay disciplined. And like I said, discipline. And like you said before, you can learn discipline. I don't, people ask me that, and I'm no trainer, I'm no expert, but they ask me all the time, oh, I want to do what you do. I want to train 5-6 days a week. I want to eat 6 meals a day. And I said, that's awesome. But first, why don't we do this? Why don't we pick 2 or 3 days you can commit to every week? Why don't we try, a couple simple things? Take baby steps. Allow yourself to succeed. I'd rather see you commit to training 3 days a week, and then if you can train a 4th and 5th day, awesome, and you're going to feel so much better about yourself for doing it, versus you saying, I'm going to commit to 6 days a week, and maybe you do it for the first week, second week, maybe even the third week, but the 4th week work's busy, and you can't get to the gym half the week. Now you're down in the dumps, you end up falling off and just quit because you don't think you can do it anymore. Don't do it that way. Don't be scared to try. Don't be scared to try. Challenge yourself. You'll feel so much better for it afterwards.
Something we always done here at Super Training Gym is we've always trained on the weekends. And, it's not always easy because, like, some guys might want to hang out with their girlfriend or their wife or whatever. But, I mean, it's like, look, your girlfriend or whoever you want to hang out with on the weekend, they're probably not really doing a whole lot at, like, 7 a.m. 5 a.m., 6 a.m. on the weekend. And yeah, it might be kind of a drag to wake up early on the weekend because you wake up early during the week. But a lot of people say, look, man, I ain't got time to train. It's like, okay, well, a lot of people work Monday through Friday. I know some people have different schedules, but whatever days it is that you don't work, why not try to work out on those days? Like you said, set it up,
Yep.
make it a little bit easier for yourself. Don't make everything so hard. Don't make everything so complicated. There's no reason to even have a discussion about doing an hour of cardio every day because you're just never going to do it.
Nope.
That's way too tough. Think about, you know
Yep.
what? I'm going to start doing 10-minute walk a day. And if I can do 5 or 6 for the week, that would be a victory. See if you can do
Yep.
that. Set that up. Get that knocked out of the park. And then start moving on to things that are maybe a little bit more challenging.
Nope, exactly. They've got a saying, they say successful people don't sleep in. I've been training every Sunday morning with a group of guys, and the group's changed over the years, but there's been the same 3 or 4 of us, for the past 4 years. And every Sunday, just about for the past 4 years, we've gotten together. No matter whatever happens else during the week, we've gotten together. We train on every Sunday morning, and you're absolutely right. We get up, we all get together between like 7, 8 a.m. just because it's early. It's before the day starts. It's no matter what's going on, whether it's a work, a birthday party, most of the time everybody can get there. And you have that commitment to not just yourself, but everybody else there too. And that comes down to that accountability thing. You know that if you don't show up, if I don't show up, my dad's going to be, by himself lifting. If he doesn't show up, I'm by myself lifting, whatever it is, but we rely on each other, and it's, you can't necessarily be successful alone. It's okay to ask for help from people, and that's completely fine, whatever it takes.
I think a lot of times we're reaching for stuff, and we should not really reach for stuff. Stuff should pull on us. And when you have other teammates and you have other people in mind, that's when you get that pull. That's when you're like, oh man, I can't not go at 6 in the morning because everybody else is there. If it was up to you, if it's just your push towards something, then it'd be harder. Then you're like, I could just show up at 8. It won't matter. And then what happens? Something happens at 8. Your dad calls and is like, hey, man, let's go get breakfast. Or someone in your family calls and says, hey, man, let's go hit up that diner and smash some food. And there you are eating instead of doing what you set out to do. And the cycle just keeps going. Later on in the day, you're tired and you got another excuse on why you're not. And, I've lived all these things myself, not necessarily with lifting because I've always been a nut about lifting and I'm really happy for that. But I have had a lot of other things that I've put off in my life. Where can people find you? I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to contact you. Is it okay for people to slide into the DM and ask you some questions on how you become successful with making this change?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to. I'm always happy. Like I said, I'm no expert. I can only tell people what I've done and what I've tried. And, I'm more than happy to give anybody any information I can and try to help them out. At Team Cupcakes Positively on Instagram is the best way to get me. Slide right into the DM. I'll answer it promptly with any questions, concerns anyone has. But yeah, feel free.
Oh, I got one more question. What's something you do? Like I know, like you're in bodybuilding mode now, which is just a different world, and there's not a lot of play, But like, what's a
Yep.
treat? What's a what would you say is kind of like a borderline healthiest treat or snack or something that you do to kind of keep you on your plan? Like for me, I love protein shakes. So a lot of times I'll do a shake before bed. Like when I start to get more serious, I start to even pull that out. But I do things like that. I might even go a few weeks where I allow myself to have like protein bars and stuff, which it's not common for someone who's trying to get in really good shape to have some of those things around. But I like to use those things rather than having, 47 peanut butter cups. I have like a Quest bar, things like that.
Yep. You know what? I actually, so I've always got sugar-free Jello on tap. That's like there's always a big bowl of Jello in there. Like, so, worst case scenario, and I got the hungry horse. I grab some Jello, pound a glass of water, because most of the time, if you can just get past it, 5-10 minutes later, you forget about it.
Right.
It just depends on how serious the diet is. But you know what? You said Quest bars. Quest makes those protein chips. They taste like Doritos.
Right.
It's like crack, man. I love it. If I'm going to have something, I try to, when you change the way you eat and you eat clean most of the time, you appreciate the little things a lot more, you know? I mean, I'm satisfied with a lot less than I would have been before. You know what I mean? You just got to kind of get over that threshold and get there. But yeah, I try to keep some, you know, sugar-free popsicles, sugar-free Jello, stuff like that. Stuff that's, you know, not going to really do me any harm, and just to give me a little bit of flavor, something like that. But I try not to cheat too much now that I'm, you know, on this diet, just because it enables me too much. I was telling somebody that yesterday. They were saying, you know, have you had any cheat meals? I've been doing this diet for like 5 or 6 weeks now. And I said, no, well, just Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. That's it. They said, why don't you ask for a cheat meal? And I said, oh, I don't want to. And they said, why wouldn't you want to? I said, because if I cheat once, I'm going to want to cheat again. I'd rather go as long as I can without it. You know?
Yeah,
and
these artificial.
Some people, it's the opposite. You know,
these artificial sweeteners and things that taste sweet. It's a little bit like going to a strip club. You know, you can look, but you can't touch. You can't get too involved, and you can't go overboard, which is the whole fun of the whole thing in the first place, right? You want to dive into a giant fucking bowl of ice cream. You want to just kill you know, like I used to buy, like, you know, I'm kind of, and I've been sharing this with people for the carnivore diet, but I've done this with a bunch of different things. Like, I'll look at like a thing of Ben and Jerry's. I'm like, you know, do I want to get the Tonight Dough, or do I want to get fish food? And I'll buy both. I'm like, why would I choose? You know, why not just get both and mix them together?
And why do they even come with lids? It's just, once it comes off, it's not going back on.
Yeah, it's done. It's a done deal.
Tonight Dough is dangerous stuff, man. Oof, that's good stuff.
Man, it's incredible. I would tell people, just, you know, like you're saying, you got some of these treats, you know, side things, but an interesting thing about what you're saying is, like, you recalibrate your you recalibrate your palate, and now when you taste like a strawberry, you're like, holy shit, that's what a strawberry tastes like. Put a little bit of whipped cream on that thing, and you're like, holy crap, wow, okay, that tastes really good. Throw some walnuts in some oatmeal, and you feel like you're having a damn party. It's insane. It's insane what happens. But I think that, you know, last night when I went out to eat and I had those different meats and stuff, without getting the vegetables, because vegetables are always cooked in some sort of weird oil and butters and all these different. I'm sure some of the meat was too. But when I was going home, I said to my wife, I'm like, I don't have a craving right now. You know, most of the time we go out to eat and I crush some food at a restaurant, then I'm always like, man, I want to go home and have some chocolate, or I want to have some candy or ice cream or something. Like, I always want to finish the night that way. And because I didn't have something that was like, I didn't have stuff that was so spectacular, it didn't cause that same response in my head. And so I think that that's something that people should be aware of. The more that you can abstain, the more abstinence that you can have from some of these really freaking wonderful foods, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, and it comes down to wanting it and needing it too. You know, when you get that urge, when you get that, you know, that craving, just stop, think a second, say, do I need this or do I want this? You know, and if you answer that question truthfully, you're not going to make the bad choice.
You going to be at the Arnold Classic this year, you think?
I already booked the trip, brother. I'll be there.
Oh my God! Thanks for the warning.
Yep. So let everybody know, Cupcake's coming in hot.
Oh, dude, you'll be absolutely shredded by. I mean, you're gonna be you know, not too far away from the contest there.
Yeah, we're going to be all diced up. Yeah, that'll be so was it the first week in March? So yeah, I'll be like six weeks out.
Oh, like I can't let you show me up. I might have to carnivore my way all the way to the goddamn Arnold Classic. You're a jerk.
Yeah, you got it, man. Let's see what you got. You were pretty shredded last year.
Maybe we can get a training session in.
I'd love to do that, man. That'd be fantastic. You know, what's funny is I've got pictures with you from like the past 4 years, and we both have like shrunk. You know, I remember the first time I get to shake your hand at the Olympia, like 4 or 5 years ago. We were both pretty big, and then the next year at the Arnold, and then, you know, the next year at the Arnold, and it's like we're both leaning out. You know, so it's crazy to see transformation.
At that seminar that you were talking about, I walk in the room. The first thing that I say, without even seeing you yet, and I don't even know if you were there quite yet. I went around because I was in this circle, and I'm talking to people, and I'm like, man, I think everybody thinks there's a buffet here. And my brother's got the camera, and my brother's filming everything. And, it's kind of like one fat guy powerlifter after another. And my brother puts the camera on you, and you're like, I'm just here for the lasagna. It's like we both had our minds in the same spot,
Yeah, the inner Smelly was talking to me.
The craziest thing is one of the reasons why I was drawn to you and meeting you and stuff is you look like a bell in a lot of ways. So as insulting as that could possibly be, I apologize, but you kind of do look a little bellish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what can I say? You got good genes. You
got that. You're off the team face, if you don't mind me saying.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's an awful place to be. Anyway, man, it was great having you on the show. Anything else you want to add before we drop off?
No, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. It was awesome talking with you guys. Whenever you're ready to, come on down to Boston. I'll have the garage open for you at least until you open up Super Training East Coast.
Awesome. All right, my man. Strength is never a weakness, and we'll catch you later, bud.
All right, brother. Take care.
See you. That was awesome, man.
That went really well.
Yeah, that was a lot of what I was hoping for. I mean, the point of bringing someone on isn't like, hey, look at how many fans we got. It's not. It has nothing to do with any of that. What it is, it's perspective. Because people can sit here and they can say, oh, Mark, he's made his money and he's done what he wanted to do in powerlifting, and so it's easy for him to get in shape. It's easy for him to do these things. Mm-hmm. Well, here's a guy. He's got not just a 9 to 5. It sounds like it's even more than that. He's working really hard, and simultaneously he's able to get in the gym. He's able to do powerlifting. He's able to transition into bodybuilding. He's able to drop a bunch of weight. He has a wife. He has goals outside the gym. And I just think, but for me, that's like one of the better podcasts that we've done, because I think that's really special, and I can't wait to do more of that in 2019. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Dude, I'm so fired up right now. I mean, just hearing his story, that was amazing. But I mean, he just said a couple of things where I'm just like, holy shit. When he's talking about discipline, he said successful people don't sleep in.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I've heard that at some point in my life, but for some reason, hearing it coming from him, I was just like, ooh, holy shit, it's on.
And probably the reason why it sounds really good coming from him is because he has his eye on the prize right now, but he's probably not in possession of it. You know what I mean? Like, so he's still striving for it. Like, it's an interesting thing. They've done studies before showing like your happiness doesn't exponentially go through the roof with your finances. I mean, they've actually done studies on this. They'll show like, if you go from 10,000 to 20,000, there's like this amount of change. But there's like these brackets, and if you go from like 20 to 40, it's like, yeah, you'll see a little increase, but that same increase doesn't happen again as you keep going up. However, it starts to level off when you start to get about $80,000-$90,000 is when people kind of are like, okay, like I think when people get to that level, I think they start to realize I could work more. I'm definitely intelligent enough to make probably quite a bit more money. But you know what? I don't want to, because I don't want to be working all the time. And so it's an interesting thing, but it doesn't, things don't just exponentially continue to make you happier, but you have to figure out, different things in your life that are going to allow you to make progress in. And when you make progress in those areas, progress is happiness. When you start to make, I was sharing this the other day, and sometimes I feel bad in saying certain things certain ways, but there's no other way to put it. I don't believe that you can be really, truly happy with yourself all around if you're not happy with the way that you look. If you look in the mirror every day and you're like, I'm fucking, and I'm not talking about like, someone who's born with something, I'm talking about something you have control over. I'm not talking about you're born without a hand or something like that. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. I'm talking about when you are 60, 70, 80 pounds overweight, I think it's really hard to have the happiness that you're really, truly looking for. I'm also not talking about having an extra 10 or 20 pounds. I mean, all of America has spots on them that can be like, I'm not talking about that, because sometimes you see the message from some, especially the fitness women, where they're like, I'm not afraid to be a bigger woman. And you're like, you weigh 150 and you're 5'10", you're not heavy and you never really were. You know, it's like, you know, you gotta be about 250 for us to accept some of those words that you're writing. But you know, it was great hearing from him, hearing from somebody that is doing it, and then especially after the message that I got yesterday. You know, I'm not going to let a message ruffle my feathers or anything, but the reason why I brought that up, and the reason why I even read stuff. Some people might be like, "Why the hell would you even read that?" The reason that I read that is because I care. I give a shit. I don't that message is not going to hurt my feelings, but that message makes me think about the message that I share. I'm not going to change my message because of one person, but I do want to learn perspective. Like, what is this guy's life like that he feels that frustrated with it, where he wrote me this, you know, 5 paragraph thing, right? And then I want to figure out, I'm not going to be able to help everybody. That's an impossible mission. But I would love for everybody to at least understand, you know? Because, like, the next comment was from another guy where he's like, he's a sellout and this and that. And I'm like, I'm sure that these people follow all people in fitness, right? And it's like, who are you following? Are you following Dana Lynn Bailey? Are you following Rob Bailey? Are you following Bradley Martin? Are you following, you know, are you following Larry Wheels? Like, Larry Wheels just came out with his own wrist wraps and his own elbow wraps. You know, Bradley Martin has an entire line of clothing. The Baileys have clothing and supplements, right? Like, everyone is trying to monetize what they're doing. I mean, it's the way that it is. And I don't think that's, I don't even really know what selling out would really even mean. I guess I would sell out to like a bigger company for an easier job and to not have to do the hard work of like creating everything that we've created here. I guess that would have been selling out, but I never did anything like that. I never took a handout from. I mean, I've had to take, you know, so I had to have money loaned to me, but like other than that, other than being fortunate enough to have someone loaned me $5,000 to start Super Training Gym, which was a gym member, and that wasn't even luck because I explained to him what I was doing and he wanted to invest in it, and so there you go. And then also getting some money loaned to me for the start of the Slingshot. I mean, other than those two things, there's never been in a situation where I needed anything from anybody. Those were two situations where I did, I guess. But I think that you're not going to find anybody that has started really anything all that substantial without some sort of help, some sort of handout, some sort of gift from somewhere, from somebody.
Yeah, I think if you were to sell out, I don't know, you'd get with another company that you previously were talking shit about or something, you know, and be like, no, you guys don't understand. Like, that was all for show. Like, we're actually...
Right.
We've been partners for a while. Like, go buy all their stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but nah, all our stuff's original and genuine.
Right. And like I said, I'm not going to let things like that, you know, bug me. But I do like to learn about it because I think that the ultimate thing is to, you know, really put a lot of high value on how to communicate to people, how to, like, I just hope that people can understand what we're talking about. If they want to flip past it because they don't like it, then that's one thing. That's totally fine. But I don't want people to ever think, you know, because I post a picture of a car or I post a picture. A lot of times I'm fucking around too. Like, like, look, man, like I love like Lil Wayne. Like I love all these rappers, and I love Ric Flair. Like Ric Flair, all he ever talked about was diamond rings and how expensive his alligator shoes were, and all these women he was around, and he's coming out of his limousine, and I love that stuff. I think this stuff's fun, and you know, I'm certainly not wearing diamond rings and wearing, you know, a $50,000 watch or anything, but I do like to spend some money on some stuff because it's fun. It's cool. Anything else to add in on anything?
Oh, man, I'm fired up, dude. I really needed today's bench session. We warmed up really good today.
I'm kind of upset with you because, you know, you're starting to steal all the strength. You're starting to steal all the thunder. There's only so much weight and so much success that people can have in here in one day, and you're starting to consume a lot of it. And
don't forget,
getting frustrating.
Don't forget the stack of happiness. Like, I'm starting to take chips away from your stack of happiness, and you're not going to be as happy now.
No, I was very depressed during today's workout because you stole. I went to look for the happiness. I went to the cupboard, and I was like, somebody must have fucking moved it. And then I went to the other one, and it was gone.
Now it's in my cupboard.
Why are you doing that?
But I mean,
every workout.
I know. In all seriousness, though, like I feel like it's definitely like the weather, like the gloominess. But I had a bad day yesterday. Like, I was not smiling. I trained at home, and I was trying to get Stephanie to do like you know how we pull the udders, basically call it that movement. And she's using her tricep, and I just remember like I started getting frustrated. I was like, dude, okay, why am I so upset? Like, what's going on? And I just didn't have a good day, and then ended up going to a family birthday party, and that really, that was exactly what I needed. But this morning's training session, we warmed up our shoulders. My shoulder's been bugging me for some reason. I took a long time to get it going.
Yeah, we took our time.
Yeah, and then got under the bar. I'm like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. It felt good. And then, you had walked away, and I'm like, dude, I want to go up. So like I added, I slowly ramped up, but I ended up putting 185 on the bar, and then we had like 120 in chains, and I had a slingshot on, but I unracked it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much weight. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I ended up not super clean, but I got 3 reps out of it.
Yeah.
And I got off of that, and I'm just like, I text Stephanie. I'm like, I don't care. We're going to Costco. I'm getting all of the food.
We won.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so like DJ was on the live stream. He's like, hey, what's up, buddy? I'm like, dude, I'm fasting right now. We had a great bench session, and this is one of the best conversations we've ever had, with Freddie over here.
Yeah.
Like, dude, everything's great right now. I'm fired up, man.
That's awesome. And if you want to join me, tomorrow I'm going pretty deep. I'm gonna try to go for like a 24-hour fast. So I don't know if you want to try to hang with that, but either way you can do whatever, if you I think let's just have you do 18 hours no matter what, and then you can figure out what you want to do from there.
All right, yeah. I think I can do a 24-hour if I plan it and I finish eating earlier.
Right.
Because like I'm fasting right now, so I think I'm going to end up going pretty hard, I don't know, in like another 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably eat again before I go to bed. So I don't want to have to wait till bedtime the next day.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and so like the way I've been doing it, it's been working out pretty good. I've been shutting it down early each night. I go at like 7, and then like I forget the math, but I'll eat at like 5 or 4, something like that. So that's it's not. It's weird because I'm actually feeling really strong doing it, and I don't understand why. I'm having a hard time understanding, but it's supposed to be protective. It's supposed to keep you from losing muscle mass and whatever the hell's going on. It feels like it's working pretty good.
Yeah, Terrell was asking me about it, and I'm like, I cannot tell you anything about why I'm fasting, but I'm currently fasting.
Tell him about the ST Classic. I had a pee of it. Right?
All right. Well, actually, who was just saying that? I can't say this guy's name, but we'll just go with Rex. I definitely won't touch 3 plates at the meet, but what Mark was just saying, the ST Classic, Super Training Classic, is going to be here in Sacramento, February 9th and 10th at the Cal Expo Fairgrounds. It's going to be held at the Total Health and Fit Expo. We have registrations been up for a while. We really want people to start signing up, especially if you're listening to the podcast. It'd be really cool to have just the whole Power Project Army. I don't think that's what we're calling it, but whatever we are going to call it, it would just be sick to have people that are here on the live stream. I know BMOC is going to be there. It'd be cool to have Bobby Ray show up out of nowhere. I don't even know if he can leave his hometown in Georgia, wherever he's from. But no, that would be sick, man. And Mark keeps saying that I'm going to do it. I guess I'm committed now. I have no idea what like my opening numbers or like my body weight. I don't know any of that. Mark's trying to keep it as simple and as easy as possible for me because it will be my first meet. So the less pressure, the better. So yeah, I like I said, I have no idea. And then we were training last week, and somebody had asked like, "Hey, so should he be hitting, his openers today?" And he's like, nah, we're not going to worry about that. He's just going to hit whatever he hits. And on one hand, that freaks me out because I really want to know what I should be aiming for. But on the other hand, it makes a lot of sense. If I don't know what's on the bar, I just I kind of go for it. But one thing that we'll definitely get into at some point is seeing as this is my first meet, I'm noticing things that I never noticed before, which is like I see somebody cough and I'm like, I gotta go. Like, get away from me. If I get sick right now, I'm gonna be in a lot of trouble. So, when I see the team, they do multiple meets per year or, even one per year, I'm just like, man, there's a lot more involved than just training and getting strong. There's, it's not as bad as bodybuilding, but there is the sleep aspect. There's, eating enough. There's not getting too far away from where you want to weigh,
Right.
but at the same time, not, being afraid of gaining to get a little bit stronger.
Right.
So it's like, man, dude, my hands down to props to everybody that competes on a regular basis. I had no idea.
It gives you a lot of anxiety, and
Absolutely.
And part of the good part for you is that you haven't competed before, so there's not the anxiety of like doing better than you did before.
Yeah.
You do want to do like better than you did in the gym, but like everybody totally understands and actually almost expects that you're going to do a little bit worse than you normally would do in the gym. That's pretty common. It just depends on how you're lifting. Like I've been showing you like pauses on benches, and we've been going over a lot of stuff. And as the meet gets a little closer, we'll refine that. So you should be totally fine, and you should be able to at least replicate what you've done in the gym, if not do a little bit more, because we'll taper off and things like that. But yeah, a lot of times, people's first meet, they do a little bit worse, but it's kind of good that you don't have a previous contest
Yeah.
where you're like, oh man, I got to at least hit, 225 in the bench or bust,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just been really cool, man. Like the feedback, and I don't know what I was expecting, but like I had a conversation with JP Price because he had DM me and he's like, dude, you're doing so good. Like you need to do it on the platform now. Like officially it's 226, kilos or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just telling him like, I know no one's going to be negative. No one's ever going to say like, oh yeah, I remember doing that in junior high or, whatever it is,
Right.
even though like at some point someone's going to say that because it's, we're friends or whatever.
Right.
But I was telling him like, dude, everyone's been so supportive. Like I'm blown away by like how positive everyone's been. It just makes you want to do more, and it makes you want to help others feel this feeling.
Right.
Like,
Well, there's going to be like 95% of the people are going to be like really supportive.
Yeah.
And there'll be a large group of people that are like ultra supportive, where they're like, hey, let me help you. Like do like, especially like when you actually compete, there'll be somebody on that day that comes out of the woodwork that you're like, wow, like they just kind of helped me the whole day. Like what? But that's kind of the magic of having a team is that we make sure, and we discuss it a lot of times beforehand. We don't all sit down together and talk about it, but we'll say, okay, who's competing, and there might be somebody in the group that like a lot of people don't pay attention to normally. We'll have to say, hey, we got to get extra attention towards this guy or girl because normally like they lift kind of quiet. Every once in a while, we got some people in here that they don't really care too much about like the music that's playing. They don't make any noise when they lift, and so we kind of like they get lost in the shuffle. And on game day, it's important that we're just kind of all over everybody, making sure they're getting the lifts that they want to get. But today with those chains, the way they were set up was really brutal. The way that they all kind of jumped on there.
Yeah.
At the top, even like when I went to bench like 365, it's like I almost wasn't ready for it to be that heavy at the top when I went to push into it. I did push into it and I did okay, but I was like, whoa, like that was crazy at the top. And then I actually took the chains off because I was like, let me do 4. Like I don't want to just make a big jump and get hurt. So I did 405 and that flew up easy, and that felt weird because I took the chains off. And then so I'm like, I guess I knew that the 405 was going to be like a roll of the dice. I didn't know how it was going to go exactly, but it was nice to be able to hit that big weight with all that chain on there. That's like, 525 pounds or something like that at the top of the lift.
Yeah, no, I loved the way we set up the chains today. I don't know. Normally, when we have the chains just as whatever the normal setup.
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost like bands or like even a bamboo bar. Like I kind of get a little weird with it.
Right.
With today, for some reason, like unracking all the weight on the top with the chains up high, I was able to just dump it and then woof, it flew off my chest. It was great.
Well, it was good because you can kind of build up some speed. You
Mm-hmm.
can kind of build up some speed going into it, and then all that chain starts to hit you. And actually, from a perspective of like the way that we're moving, as your body becomes in a better position, which you'd be able to hold the most weight at lockout. Like if someone just handed you the weight, then you could probably hold 315.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to press 315, it will kill you for now,
Yeah,
right?
right now, yeah.
But you could hold it, and at the bottom, what you could hold on your chest without moving it would probably be like 275. Probably quite a bit more. What you could lower without the weight, crashing through your chest would probably be about 275 also. So you can lower a lot more weight. You could hold a lot more weight at lockout. And so the bands and the chains and even a slingshot, they take advantage of a lot of this because the weights are lighter at the bottom where it would be the hardest. And then it would be really hard. Like we've done those dead presses before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you just press like almost just off your chest. You can't press anything that way.
No.
It's impossible. It's so hard.
That's what jacked up my shoulder.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's insanely. I wish there was a way to utilize that movement a little bit. I wish there was a way to utilize that exercise without the injury because it does have a big impact. It can help a lot, but it's just very injury prone. We used to set them up in chains,
Mm-hmm.
and when they were set up in the chains, you can kind of swing the weight, and then you can kind of get it in the right spot, and then you can bump it up, and you can press it, and that actually felt a lot better. But anyway, the point is like all these different areas they make the lift harder. You're at a disadvantage. At the top is where you have the most advantage. And as you're pressing through towards the top, you get more and more of an advantage. So it makes sense that there's something running alongside of you as you get that advantage that's making the weight heavier, making it harder, making it tougher. And you don't have to train that way all the time, but it is nice to have stuff like that allows you to do that. It also allows you to use less barbell weight. Now, if you can think about it this way, if you have 200 pounds on a bar, and you have 100 pounds of chains, at the bottom, it's about 200 pounds, and that's what your shoulders feel, and that's what your elbows feel, and that's what everything feels. Now, out of the worst position that you press from, your shoulders feel 200, 225, and so on until it gets back up to around 300 pounds, what a great idea and concept that is for most of the time, your shoulder is going to get injured and beat up when it's in the worst position. Also, for a lot of people, they get hurt in the bench press. They don't have good form and technique. They also don't have the ability to keep their shoulders in place and keep them in the right spot. So it's like tenfold. As we get closer to the chest with the barbell, the internal rotation of the shoulder gets to be worse and worse and worse and worse. And we've seen people, they kind of like fall towards the end of the bench press as they're coming down towards their chest. We see it a lot in a deadlift when someone's doing the eccentric portion of a deadlift going downward with a deadlift. A lot of times they're in good position, back's flat, and then all of a sudden they drop. They just dump the weight onto the ground and they round their back to get to the ground. We want to always try to have the best mechanics that we possibly can, but they're hard to maintain with straight weight sometimes. So sometimes by just using a band or using a chain or using a slingshot, you automatically put yourself in a better position, and it's way less beating on your shoulders and elbows. The bands are kind of weird because the bands are like, they're harder to adjust and manipulate, but chains are amazing because it's like you can buy different types of chains. Now, just having them is kind of a pain in the ass, but using them is fantastic, and I think everyone should look into trying to mess around with benching with some chains.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the bands, but I do appreciate that they let up off the ground, off the bottom, and then kind of like a slingshot also with the chains. Man, I'm a fan of the chain gang.
Well, the chains are great because they completely unload on the ground, whereas the band doesn't. The band is still on there. So if you have 200 pounds of bar weight and you have the bands just on there, they might give you 80 pounds at the top, but at the bottom it's still probably like 30 or 40 pounds. So it's just harder. It's harder to feel it. It's harder to know what the hell it's doing, and then it's going to do something different for each person due to like arm length and many other things. But anyway, it was amazing having Fred, Fred Zebra on today's podcast. It was awesome. I love hearing his story, and I know there's many other people that feel the same way. Losing weight isn't easy. Getting that momentum's not easy, but you guys just wait. When there's going to be a day, listen to what I'm about to say. There's going to be a day where you get locked in, and it's going to be easier to be on your diet than it will to be off your diet. I know that sounds wild, but you will get there. I'm really, really proud of my sister-in-law. She just started messing around with she's been exercising and she's been doing different diets for many, for on and off for many years. And just like everybody else, holidays come around and, you tend to you celebrate, right? And we have fun and we enjoy our family. But just in a real short period of time, she's already dropping some weight. And I said to her, and she goes, I know, it's just kind of like a water thing. And I said, hey, don't sell yourself short. This should be celebrated. You should be pumped about this. That's exciting. You did the work to lose the weight. And she's like, I know, but like the rest of the weight, it will take longer to get off. And I said, yeah, but like, imagine if it took, she's lost like 6 pounds, I think. Imagine if it took double the amount of time or even triple the amount of time to lose another 6 pounds. Well, shit, now we're starting to talk about you just lost 12 pounds total, and it's in like 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's huge. Now, look, if you drop 10 pounds, and let's say it's over the course of 2 months, you drop 10 pounds, and it's in the course of 8 weeks, right? That's first of all, that's really good progress. You should be really excited about that. Other people have made better progress than that. Other people have lost more weight faster, right? But it's not a sprint, this is something that you're going to want. You want to make a permanent change. And a lot of times when a permanent change has to be fought for, and when it takes a long time, a lot of times it's going to stay better because you're going to make sure that it does because you work so damn hard for it. You're not going back. You heard Frank say it on the podcast. He's like, or Fred, you heard him say it on the podcast. He was like, that guy ain't coming back. That guy was 260 and 280. I buried him. He's gone. And I feel the same way with my previous self. I feel the same way when, I was 300 and 330. I will never weigh that weight again. I'll never even weigh 270 again. I'll never weigh 260 again. 250, I still kind of consistently am like more like 240. And I will probably weigh 250 again just because the weight will come up and it will go down. But hopefully, as I work my way, my goal is to work my way towards 230. Hopefully, as I work my way towards 230, I allow myself 10 pounds up, 10 pounds down, but hopefully stay within that 230-pound range. Really not downward, I'm not too worried about, but I don't want to, be a weenie either. And so those are things, as you're starting to lose weight, you might want to think about. Like, don't lose 5 pounds and say, I'll never weigh that again. Wait till you've lost about 10 pounds, or wait till you lost like more like 20 pounds, and say, I'm never going to be up in that next bracket again. I'm never going to weigh 200 again. I'm never going to weigh 300, whatever the weight is. But, this stuff is not easy. It can be very difficult. But something that's hard to understand sometimes is that the more that you can abstain from these magnificent flavors and these flavor patterns and all these different things that people are making with, drinks like Zevia and artificial sweeteners, which is not considered an artificial sweetener, but it still is, in my opinion, stevia, monk fruit, like all these different things. You still want to be a little bit careful with some of this stuff. There's no you don't need Crystal Light. You don't need it. So just don't drink it. Just drink water. You're going to be fine. What's going to happen when you still have Crystal Light and you still have diet sodas and you still have these things in your life, you're going to still want something that tastes, because you already know, full well that that's not the real deal. Shit tastes way better than that. And your brain's like, yo, this is bullshit, dude. Like, where's the real stuff, man? Let's get to the real stuff. You are dying for it. Now, as an occasional thing here and there, it's not a big deal. a couple times a week. You have a Quest bar here and there. You have a protein shake here and there. You have something that satisfies you but doesn't allow you to go off the deep end. And that's okay. But I think for most people, the people that are going to make the change based off of like this podcast or a future one, then you really need to really try to work on being as strict as you can, being as strict as you can handle. The harder that you go on this, the better it's going to be. You have to forever change. You have to forever recalibrate your freaking palate. You need to stop. The flavor that you're used to from McDonald's, the flavor that you're used to from 7-Eleven food, the flavor that you're used to from these different things. You've forgotten. You have forgotten how good an apple tastes. You have forgotten how good a steak tastes with just some salt on it. Maybe a little bit of butter. You forgot how good a burger tastes with maybe one slice of cheese on it. And so the more that you can stay on it, the better off you're going to be. Carnivore diet's been treating me really good. I feel good on it. With the fasting, I feel super strong. Everything's coming together. So far, so good. So what, I guess. That all we got?
That's all we got, man.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see all you guys and girls at the ST Classic. Hopefully, many of you come. We still need more people to sign up. I'd love for you guys to sign up because I'm going to be hitting the platform. We got a lot of other great guests that are hitting the platform. Jay Cutler is going to be there that Sunday. We have other guests. We don't have everybody like officially locked in yet, so I don't want to like overpromise stuff. But it does look like Dana and Rob Bailey might be coming to this thing. Shit. I know it doesn't really get any bigger than that. Those two. Well, Rob Bailey's an actual rock star. But I was going to say that they're kind of like rock stars, but he actually is a rock star.
Yeah.
Those two people are magnificent, and I'm huge fans. I'm happy that they're somebody that's in my phone, that I can text and give shit to here and there. So they should be there. I will announce it more officially when it's more officialist. I forget who else. I know Matt Vincent was talking about coming. We got Burdick. We got a lot of people from the gym. We got Jason Kalipa, who is prepping for the contest. He's getting ready for it. We have Colleen Foch, another CrossFitter. She's jacked. She's tan. We have Charity Witt, who recently was just on the Rock show, Titan Games. And who knows? Maybe The Rock will show up. Maybe he'll give me a rock bottom. Maybe Stone Cold will show up. Maybe Vince McMahon will show up. You never know. But we need more people to sign up, and Andrew's going to be hitting the platform. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can guarantee you that. All it is bench and deadlift. We don't have to worry about the squat. We don't have to worry about getting a parallel. And for the bench press, you can wear a slingshot, or you don't have to wear a slingshot if you don't want to. It's going to be a great time. Last year was freaking crazy. Last year was so much fun. I just remember the crowd went bananas when Matt Vincent pulled that 600-pound deadlift after all those knee surgeries and shit. That was spectacular. I believe Kelly Starrett was there last year as well. He did some, and my brother's going to lift in this one. He lifted last year, and I think my brother lifted like 400 pounds. Now he's probably going to lift closer to 600 pounds.
That's crazy.
It's going to be a great time, and you guys shouldn't miss it. So anybody that can make it, the ST Classic will attach a link to this thing.
I can.
Okay. Well, there you go. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Thank you guys so much for listening. Catch y'all later.